They told you the hills of West Virginia were quiet. They told you life here was simple, untouched by the chaos of the world. But that was a lie, and you are about to see the truth that was never meant to leave these mountains. There are families whose history is not just recorded in birth certificates and photographs. It is written in whispers, in locked doors, in the way strangers look away when you ask too many questions. The Whittakers are America's most infamous inbred family. You might think you already know their story. Strange interviews, haunting eyes, rural poverty. But the family tree you have been shown is not complete. It is not honest. And it hides more than just bloodlines. When I began digging, I believed I was uncovering a curiosity, something to entertain. But the deeper I went, the more I saw this was not an accident of geography or ignorance. This was the result of generations of isolation and something far more calculated. The story of the Whittakers is not only about who married who. It is about why certain people are kept in certain places, why some bloodlines are severed from the world, while others are carefully preserved by those in power. It is about the lengths institutions will go to keep their secrets buried, even if it means sacrificing entire families to the shadows. This updated family tree reveals new names, new connections, and betrayals that stretch far beyond the walls of their crumbling home. Children taken by the state only to be placed into equally broken systems. Lies told for survival and others told for profit. And a pattern emerges, a quiet, methodical destruction of identity, generation after generation. Tonight I will show you the faces you have not seen, tell you the stories that were left out of every interview, every documentary, and by the end you will understand why the Whittakers are more than just a family. They are a living monument to what happens while humanity is treated as an experiment and left to rot in plain sight. But be warned, once you know the truth, you cannot unknow it. And once you step inside this house, you will never leave the same. You step past the crooked porch, and the smell of damp wood greets you like a memory you never had. Inside, the air is heavy thick with the weight of years, where no light has reached. Every creak of the floor is a confession, and every wall hides a story that was never meant to survive. Betty the matriarch still holds the center of this fractured bloodline. Her eyes carry a strange resilience, not from comfort, but from decades of holding together pieces that were never meant to fit. She has seen death, sickness, betrayal, and yet she keeps feeding everyone from the same pot, as if the act itself is the last thread keeping them human. Her health is failing, but no one speaks of what will happen when her breath stops, because they all know that day will tear a hole no one can mend. In the corner sits Timmy, his life shaped before he was born by a crime no one in this family asked for. He laughs at things you cannot hear and stares into spaces you cannot see, yet he notices every stranger that steps too close. Beside him, Lorraine moves slowly, her hands hesitant as if every gesture might shatter the air between her and the world. They share a bed, not out of choice, but because the house leaves them no room for separation. Ray still limps his leg, dragging like a shadow he can never outrun. He cannot speak like you do, but he finds his own language in grunts and looks, and sudden acts of defiance that feel almost ancient. Once he brought a dead snake to the porch, pointing to the bite in his hand as if to say, "I see the danger, and I will not hide from it." And then there is Larry, the one who carries them to stores and doctors, the one falsely buried by rumor and by his own daughter's lie. His name carries the taste of betrayal. After his child told the world he was dead, just to pull money from a stranger's trust, that stranger believed her $11,000 left his hand to dress the family for a funeral that never came. And here in these hills, such a lie is not just deceit. It is survival, and survival rewrites morality. This house does not just hold the Whittakers. It holds the rules of a hidden world where loyalty is blood and blood is law, and law bends for no outsider. And once you understand those rules, you begin to see that the Whittakers are not an accident of isolation. They are the result of a system that knows how to make people disappear without ever leaving their home. The Whittaker family is not just trapped in the hills of West Virginia. They are trapped inside a web spun by powers that thrive on silence and secrecy. Behind every closed door in their crumbling house lies the shadow of an institution that prefers broken families over questions. You see, the Whittakers are a reflection of what happens when society decides some lives are disposable, when poverty becomes a cage and neglect is a policy. When government agencies claim to protect, but instead corrode the very fabric they are meant to uphold. This family tree is twisted not only by blood, but by a system designed to isolate and control. Their story is a warning carved in flesh about the psychological prisons built around the forgotten and the forsaken, where children grow up learning that their value is measured by the secrets they keep and the pain they inherit. The drug infestations, the whispered rumors of abuse, the silent suffering of the disabled and the forgotten, all are symptoms of a darker agenda, one that uses fear and stigma as tools to keep the powerful unseen and untouched. The Whittakers are pawns in a larger game of control, where public indifference is as lethal as the diseases that haunt their bodies. But make no mistake, this is no random tragedy. This is an engineered decay, a slow, deliberate dismantling of humanity beneath the radar of news and empathy. Their isolation is the perfect cover for systemic manipulation, where the lines between victim and perpetrator blur. And yet even in this darkness resistance flickers, in the small acts of care from Betty, in Ray's silent defiance, in the stubborn survival of those who refuse to be erased. If you see yourself in this story, if you feel the weight of these truths, then I need you to do something now. Write in the comments below twice the phrase, "I see beyond the veil." This is more than words. It is a commitment to awaken to the hidden forces that shape our world, to claim your identity as someone who refuses to be blind to the darkness, because once you say it twice, you lock in that transformation, you step beyond the passive observer into the realm of the awakened, and from here there is no turning back. What haunts the Whittakers is older than any news report or social study. It is a curse woven into their bloodline, a legacy born long before the cameras and the rumors. This is a darkness that creeps through generations like a poison slowly eating away at their very souls. Inbreeding is not just a genetic fact here, it is a symbol of something far more sinister. A family trapped in a cycle of isolation and decay. The twisted branches of their family tree mirror the twisted nature of the forces that surround them. Each generation born into silence, each secret passed down like an inheritance no one asked for. This ancient corruption is not just physical, it is spiritual and psychological, a cage forged by fear, shame, and abandonment. It is the invisible prison that keeps the Whittakers tethered to a past they cannot escape. But beyond biology lies the real horror. The way their suffering has been used and manipulated. The power structures around them have commodified their pain, turned their brokenness into a spectacle to be gawked at, while quietly ensuring they remain powerless and unseen by the world that matters. Their family is a warning, a reflection of what happens when humanity is stripped of dignity and left to rot, when the forgotten are sacrificed for the convenience of a society that values appearances over truth. And yet, in the depths of this darkness, a strange resilience flickers, a quiet rebellion in the eyes of those who survive, because even in the most cursed bloodline, there is a spark that refuses to die. And that spark is the first step toward breaking the cycle. If you are still with me, still breathing in these truths, then you are part of something bigger, something dangerous and powerful, because knowledge like this is a weapon. and once wielded, it changes everything. The story of the Whittakers is not just their story alone. It is a mirror reflecting a much darker network of control that stretches into the heart of institutions you trust to protect you. Behind the curtain of social services and law enforcement lies a hidden agenda designed to maintain power by controlling the powerless. Families like the Whittakers become collateral damage in a system that thrives on division and neglect. Their struggles are catalogued and classified, but never truly solved. Children taken from their homes vanish into foster systems riddled with corruption. Addiction is treated like a crime rather than a symptom of a broken society, and those who speak out quickly find themselves silenced or discredited. This is not a coincidence or bureaucratic failure. It is a calculated method of psychological warfare, a slow erosion of identity and hope designed to keep entire communities subdued and dependent, where fear is a weapon and silence is the only safe refuge. The Whittakers, isolated in their mountains, are a perfect example of how this manipulation works. Their poverty and disabilities are exploited as reasons to surveil and control, rather than to empower or heal. Their family bonds are twisted into chains, their trauma commodified and broadcast to a voyeuristic public that consumes tragedy without empathy. But beyond the visible suffering lies a network of hidden hands. Local officials, social workers, even medical professionals, complicit in this quiet genocide of spirit, each playing their part in a system that benefits from the brokenness of families like the Whittakers. Their pain is currency, their silence is profit. Yet resistance brews in the cracks of this cruel machine. Every truth revealed, every lie exposed, every voice raised against the tide of control chips away at the foundations of this darkness. If you have felt the weight of these revelations, if the fire inside you burns brighter than fear, I want you now to write the phrase, "I see beyond the veil," twice in the comments below. This is not just ritual, it is your declaration of awakening, your first step as a man who refuses to be a pawn in this sinister game. The dark story of the Whittakers is a thread woven into a tapestry far older and darker than you realize. This is not just a tale of one family in a forgotten mountain town. It is a reflection of ancient systems of control designed to manipulate bloodlines and suppress truths that threaten the powerful. For centuries, elites have used isolation and corruption as tools to dominate populations. They manipulate who lives and who dies, who thrives and who is discarded. Like refuse, families like the Whittakers become living proof of these hidden agendas, their suffering a consequence of forces beyond simple poverty or chance. This ancient corruption is encoded into institutions that claim to serve justice and care. Governments, churches, and medical systems all have shadows where these manipulations thrive. They create invisible prisons, psychological and physical, that trap entire generations, where fear, shame, and secrecy become the currency of survival. And in this crucible, humanity is fractured and reshaped to serve those who wield power behind the scenes, the Whittakers' inbreeding, their disabilities, their isolation. These are symptoms of a larger sickness, a sickness born from deliberate decisions to hide inconvenient truths, to silence inconvenient people. But knowledge of this is dangerous knowledge. It shakes the foundations of the reality you thought you knew, because once you see how deep the corruption runs, once you realize the lengths those in power will go to maintain control, you can never look away again. This is the moment when men stop being passive spectators, when they step into the realm of the awakened, and begin to fight for a truth that was stolen from them before they even understood its value. If you hear the call in this darkness, if you feel the fire that cannot be quenched, write now in the comments twice the phrase, "I see beyond the veil." Seal your transformation. Claim your place as a man who walks the path of forbidden knowledge. Now you stand at the edge of a precipice where the past, present, and future collide. The Whittakers are more than a family lost to darkness. They are a warning etched into the bones of America itself. Their bloodline is a map of what happens when secrets fester and power manipulates the forgotten. You have seen how isolation breeds control, how silence becomes a tool for the powerful, how ancient corruption hides behind the veil of institutions meant to protect, and how identity itself can be stolen, reshaped, and destroyed in the shadows. But this knowledge is not a curse to carry alone. It is a call to awaken the part of you that refuses to be blind or complicit, to tear down the walls built to contain you, to reclaim the power that belongs to every man who dares to seek the truth. The Whittaker story is a dark mirror, but in that mirror you see the reflection of your own chains, the unseen forces that seek to limit your freedom, your awareness, your soul. And now, armed with forbidden knowledge, you must choose. Will you remain a pawn in their game, trapped by fear and silence? Or will you rise as the architect of your own destiny, a man who breaks the cycle and forges a new path in the shadows? Remember this moment, the moment you looked beyond the veil and heard the truths no one else dared whisper. Carry it with you like armor, because the world you awaken to is not kind, but it is real, and it is yours to master. Now, one last time, write the phrase, "I see beyond the veil," twice in the comments below, not as a plea, but as a command, a declaration of your new identity, a seal on your transformation. This is the knowledge that changes men forever, and from this point on, there is no turning back.